Hello, everyone. Just give us 1 minute to get started. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. If this is your first time with us, welcome. We are excited to have you all here today for another episode of Cooking Connected. My name is Jordan, and I am joined by my coworker and friend, Sajwa.
Hi, everybody.
Both Sajwa and I are program coordinators for the Cooking Matters Minnesota program with the University of Minnesota Extension. Normally, a Cooking Matters class is a 6-week nutrition-based cooking class that features a nutrition educator and a chef that work together to teach our participants how to make a healthy, delicious, and affordable meal. So today we're going to be following that same format and we're going to be making a frittata. Sajwa is going to be our chef and I will be our nutrition educator. So as always, we are looking to connect with our community and learn how to make a healthy, delicious, and affordable meal together. So just like last week, we do have another survey. We love hearing from our viewers, so please take our survey, which we will post in the description box below. And then we have our program code in the chat as well. So today's program code for the survey is right here. There we go. The program code is E as in elephant 096998. And again, like I said, that will be in the description below. So please take that survey. We thank you in advance for that feedback. It really helps us to continue our work, our virtual work in the community, as well as help us make this video better every time. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our chef, Sajwa.
Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing well today. So, like Jordan mentioned, we're going to be doing the frittata recipe. It's an egg recipe. It's a lot of fun. I really like this one because it's great for people who are meal planners. It can be frozen for up to a month, and then you can take it out and microwave it and use it during your week. So, it's a really good recipe for meal planning. What's your favorite part, Jordan?
I really like that this recipe you can kind of change how you make it. So I really like to make it in actually muffin tins. So then you can just reheat them and eat them throughout the week, or otherwise you can also make it in a casserole dish.
Yeah. Yeah, and today we're going to be making ours in a casserole dish. I have mine here. Just FYI with today's recipe, I am going to be cutting it in half just because I have a small family, so I don't want to waste anything. I know I said this one can definitely be frozen for a month, but well, two of us can only eat so much. So let's get started. Before we get started, of course, I want to talk about sanitizing and washing our hands. I've already washed my hands, 20 seconds, singing the ABCs, making sure that I'm getting my wrists in between my fingers and underneath the nails. And then I've wiped down my cooking space, which you'll be seeing in a second here. That's all wiped down and sanitized. I've also rinsed my vegetables already, and any of things that I've been using. If we were using cans, we would be wiping those, but we're not doing that today. Mm-hmm. So let me just let you guys see what we got going here.
Looks good.
All right. So the first thing we're going to want to do following our recipe is to preheat our oven to 350. I've already done that for us. Then we're going to go ahead and rinse and cut our vegetables. So I've got some mushrooms here. I think I'm going to start with these guys. They've already been rinsed, like I mentioned before. I'm just going to cut them up a little bit smaller. With recipes like this, it's really up to you and how you like to eat things. You can choose a size that's comfortable for you and your family. I like a little bit of a smaller mushroom, so I'm going to just mince these guys up.
Yes. And something to watch out for is, especially with mushrooms, some mushrooms do say on the package that they are rinsed, so they're ready to go and ready to eat. Just keep in mind that sometimes they may not have been rinsed, so rinsing your mushrooms is always a good idea.
Yes, thanks for bringing that up, Jordan. These guys did say they were rinsed already, but I went ahead and took care of it by doing it again. If you want to be safe, just go ahead and rinse it yourself. Doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
So I'm just doing a mince. With this technique, I have my hand flat on top of the knife, and then I'm just rotating the knife around to kind of cut this up. With mushrooms, they're just so easy to cut. I feel like I can go ahead and do a large amount like this and just keep um, making my pile up and cutting it down. So finish these guys up.
And what Sandra is doing is also a really great idea if you have kids that maybe don't like a certain vegetable. So mincing them and small like that is a great way to still get all the vitamins that's in that vegetable, so you can still put it in the meal, but they won't taste it quite as much because it's a really small chunk of that certain vegetable.
Yeah, that's a really great tip. I definitely do that with mushrooms when I'm adding them to my spaghetti or anything else. Even if it's something new, right now is the perfect time to experiment a little bit with your farmer's market, getting some local, fresh, and seasonal vegetables. That would be awesome for a recipe like this. So I've got those all cut up for myself, nice and comfortable. Next, we're gonna go ahead and do our onion. I had some leftover onions, so I have this half here. It's been cut in half. I am gonna actually take the skin off. And what do we like to do with our onion skin, you guys?
Freezer bag.
Yes, there you go. From all of these cooking connecteds, after doing these recipes, my freezer bag is starting to get really, really full. So I'm looking forward to making a vegetable broth
Yeah.
in the future. So got my skin off. I put that to the side so I could use it in my that broth bag later. Put these guys over there too for that. And I want to dice my onion. So following the lines that are already present here in the onion, I'm just going to make some slices following those. So, and watching our knife safety again, how I'm gripping the blade of the knife right here, and then I have my fingers wrapped around the handle. I have good control over my knife like that. Got my claw here. Just gonna make some nice slices on there. And again, with something like an onion, cut it to your preference as far as thickness. It's really up to you and what you're comfortable eating. So this is a good little base for me and my family. We like them like that. So, and then this little butt here, saving that for my broth bag. And I toss that to the side, use it later. Now, like I mentioned, this recipe does use, for the full recipe, it calls for 2 onions. I'm going to be modifying this recipe a little bit just to make it fit for my family a little bit. And I'm going to be just doing half, so that's going to be 1 onion. So let's go ahead and work on that other side of the onion really quick. Peeling my skin. Onions are fun to cut, but not when they're making your eyes water.
There's a lot of different ways you can stop yourself from crying when you're cutting onions. I know when we make French onion soup, we have a lot of onions that we have to cut, so we have to make sure we utilize those. I've heard rinsing them in water is actually, cold water will actually help.
Oh, really?
I don't know if it works, but that's a tip that I've learned over the years, so we'll see.
I mean, it can't hurt trying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like anything not to be boo-hoo crying, and then by the time you're done, I'm about ready to just lay down and take a nap. I'm just so exhausted from the emotional turmoil
Yeah.
of cutting my onions. So, yeah, but this one's not too bad. So, and look how quickly we can dice by using that tip. Saving this guy for my broth. Just gonna put this in my bowl. Now with a recipe like this, you can use fresh. I've got some fresh stuff, the onion. I know you guys can see my bell pepper over there, but you can also use frozen vegetables. And if you are reading ahead and following with us on your recipe, you're gonna see that there is a step where you're gonna wanna boil some water and lightly boil your vegetables for about 30 seconds if they're frozen, just to kind of cook them down a little bit, and also that can help release some water. So I've done that already, but if you are starting this recipe, it would be a good idea to go ahead and get your water started now, so that can get to boiling. So I've got bell pepper here. We've done bell pepper plenty of times on Cooking Connected. I like to cut the sides. Oh, this is a beauty. Just like that. Nice and easy. Oops. Got my top. The seeds, again, are not harmful, just a little bit bitter. So again, if you want to incorporate them into your recipe, you know, that's really up to you. I'm going to save these for my broth bag. That's really up to you, but I personally will not be using any of them in this recipe.
Yeah, I don't like to use them either. I haven't really found anything that I really like using them for, so.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so we brush some of those guys aside. So with a pepper like this, bell pepper, I like to actually cut from the inside where it's kind of textured, which helps if your knife isn't as sharp. And then I got my claw. I'm practicing my knife skills, and I'm just gonna slice it up into some slices there. Then I'm gonna gather my pieces together, line them up, and I'm gonna cut them again to get a nice dice. Comfortable size for me and my family to eat here. I also had some leftover red bell pepper, so I already diced that up. I have that here, and I'm gonna be putting that into this recipe for a nice pop of color. We love to talk about eating the rainbow when we're cooking, and that's a great way to make sure you're getting a variety of nutrients, and so definitely keep that in mind.
It looks like we've got a beautiful rainbow in our frittata today, so.
Yeah, I say. All right. And so because I already have some bell pepper diced over there, I'm going to just start with this, and we're going to mix those together. And I'm going to save these pieces for another recipe sometime later. I might be making an omelet in the morning or something. Who knows? But I do use bell pepper frequently. If you wanted to, you could go ahead and dice that. I know that's helpful if I'm in a rush in the morning. Get this guy a little bit better. There we go.
That's a really great meal prep tip. If you like to make omelets in the morning, you can prep those ahead of time, prep all your veggies and just throw them in your omelets. I like to make some smoothies sometimes in the morning, so I'll actually prep all of my stuff for my smoothie, fruits, vegetables, throw them in a freezer bag, actually freeze it, and then when you're done, you can just throw that one portion in the blender and you're ready to go.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that tip. Thanks. So the next step is to grate our cheese. Today I'm going to be just using some cheese that's already been grated. You'll notice here that this one is reduced fat. Anytime that you guys can get something that's like low fat cheese or reduced fat, that's really helpful. Trying to make our meals and cut down on the extras that we don't necessarily need. And as you'll find out when you do this recipe, it comes out perfect. So don't even worry about doing that. And I did mention earlier about getting our water started to boil our vegetables. I had some frozen vegetables I wanted to go ahead and use for this recipe. I already did that step. It's step 4, bringing a pot of water to boil and then briefly boiling for 30 seconds and then draining my veggies. I've done that here. And then the next step is to take a skillet and over a medium to high heat, we're going to be cooking our onions and our mushrooms if you're using them. I personally am not going to do that step, and my reason for that is I kind of like that crunch and that texture of a more firm onion for me personally. So I'm okay with going ahead and putting this into my frittata without cooking it. Same for my mushroom. Now, if that's something you're not comfortable with, please go ahead and do step 6. Cook them and they'll be a little bit softer for you, but again, it's up to preference, and that's the beauty of recipes. They're guidelines. You don't have to follow every step. So I have my baking pan here, and we are going to go ahead and oil that. Today I'm going to be using a vegetable oil, just the regular old Joe vegetable oil, nothing special. I'm just going to put a little bit of that in my pan. Be a little bit more. And I'm going to use my fingers. I already washed my hands, so it's totally fine for me to get in there, get messy. And I'm going to spread that oil in there. This would be a really fun step for any kiddos who are looking to get in the kitchen. Like, come on, this is so fun. You can use a spray if you like. I personally don't have a spray on me, so I just went ahead and poured it out of the bottle, and it works the same.
And it also tends to be a lot cheaper just to use the liquid oils, and it's still really healthy for you to use a canola oil, olive oil. I like to use grapeseed. We mentioned that in a lot of different videos. Just use the oil that you prefer. I did also want to mention that with one of your steps when we're we're coating the medium skillet and then we're cooking some of our vegetables. If you're including carrots in this recipe, that may be one step that you do want to do. Carrots are a really dense vegetable, so
That's a great point.
yeah, so if you add carrots and you don't cook them, you're gonna have a really dense carrot in your frittata.
And that might be a little uncomfortable. Okay, so we've got our pan oiled and it's ready for us to move forward. I want to just quickly note that I did purposefully go ahead and cut all of my vegetables. I oiled my pan. I did that stuff before opening any of my eggs or bringing those into the picture because I want to avoid any like cross contamination, getting those egg whites all over the place. There is that danger of like salmonella from uncooked eggs. So make sure that you're practicing those food safety tips while you're cooking. If you're dealing with chicken or any meats, keep that in mind too. There is that. So I'm gonna just move my veg out of the way so we're all clear. And I am going to crack my eggs. So I've got 6 of them. The recipe calls for 12. Again, I'm just going to be doing half of the recipe today. I crack my eggs on a nice hard surface. Now, I am terrible about cracking eggs. I always seem to get shells in there, you guys. So whenever I'm cracking eggs, I like to keep a fork or a spoon nearby so I can get those shells out.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one falling in. I can see him right there looking at me.
So one tip you can actually use, if you use one of the larger eggshells that you'll see in the chef's view there, you can actually use one of the larger eggshells to get the smaller ones out of your eggs. They will actually kind of gravitate towards the bigger egg. So sometimes that might work for you. So give that a try whenever you get a chance.
Oh, I love that. That's really helpful for a cereal eggshell cracker like me. I'm always getting them in there. It's the worst. So I've got all of my eggs cracked. They're looking good. I'm looking in here. I'm not seeing any shells, so I'm good to go. So our step was to crack our eggs, and then we want to go ahead and whisk that with our seasonings. I've already measured our seasonings out, but today we're going to be using a little bit of dill. Oh, maybe you can't see that. Some dill. I've got my oregano, and I've got my thyme here. So we're going to be doing that. And I've already measured those out. Another thing that might be useful is a regular old Italian seasoning, which is basically a mix of all of these things anyway. So if you have Italian, go ahead and use that. We use that in a lot of Cooking Matters recipes. So if you're following along with our Cooking Connected series, it's well worth investing in a little bit of Italian seasoning. It's very versatile, not just for Italian foods, as it may lead you to think. I'm gonna whisk my eggs, and you could use a fork for this if you like. I feel like this is a large amount of egg though, so that might be challenging, but we've got to work with what we got in our kitchen. Okay, I've got my herbs in there getting whisked. Okay, that looks really good. Very messy. And again, we're watching for where we're spewing our eggs. This is now my contaminated station, so I'll be moving that out of the way. Ugh, switcheroo. There we go.
Yes, food safety is very important. So just make sure you're always watching that, as Sajua had mentioned. Food poisoning is not fun, so we definitely want to avoid that.
Yes, it's not fun at all. I do have my vegetables here. If you like, you can go ahead and, make sure we're in view. You can go ahead and cut those up smaller. Let's go ahead and cut those up smaller. I happen to have another cutting board right near me, and I think that might be a little bit more comfortable for me and my family. Let me just grab my other cutting board here.
While Sajua is cutting those up, we're just going to go ahead and talk a little bit about grab-and-go breakfast, just like this recipe is. And Sajua, feel free to interrupt me whenever you need your...
Thank you.
So, Yeah, as we've all heard, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It helps to give us energy for the day. It helps us focus, and it can also help with weight management. We don't eat a whole bunch at lunch. It's also really important for kids to eat breakfast as well. Studies show that when kids eat breakfast in the morning, they actually do better in school because they can focus on their schoolwork, and not how hungry they are. So, prepping a breakfast like this is a really great option, and a small step that you can make to be a little bit healthier. A few episodes ago in Cooking Connected, we had made the hearty egg burritos. Maybe that's something that is a great option as well. There's a lot of different great options you can prep ahead of time to eat your breakfast, and make sure that you're not so hungry for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I tend to sometimes when I miss breakfast, I tend to be a little bit more of a grouch than I normally am.
Yeah.
So hopefully my coworkers can forgive me for those moments because I know that's probably not the most pleasant. So as you guys can see here, I just cut up those vegetables a little bit more, just so they'll be a bit more comfortable in my frittata. I'm gonna go ahead and combine my veggies. If you don't use all of them, again, no problem. We can save some of this for another recipe in the future. We can save it for maybe like a omelet or something in the morning, whatever you like. So
Absolutely. And as we've discussed in and many videos, recipes are guidelines, so you can adjust them to your needs. Like with this recipe, for instance, maybe you want to add a protein. You could add a nice turkey sausage to this. You can change the vegetables. You can make it in a muffin tin. Maybe that's simpler. Or you have little ones that can't really eat a big thing of casserole. And you can also change the seasoning. So eating breakfast is that simple way to really make you a little bit healthier, and we can make a lot of simple steps to make you a little bit healthier. But make sure that you're also doing something that you like as well. It's really important to eat the foods that you enjoy.
So I'm gonna go ahead and pour in my seasonings and my eggs in with the vegetables here. Got that all together. That looks really good. Now it's there. And I'm just gonna mix that a little bit. I kind of want to make sure that I spread the egg evenly, so with a good amount of that all throughout the dish, so it's a bit more consistent. A little bit. All right, look at those colors, you guys. We've got a little bit of everything. I mean, it's really beautiful. I like this so much. This recipe is really awesome. Okay. So we've got that all done. So the next step is to sprinkle a 1/4 cup of cheese. Again, we've got our reduced fat cheese. Actually, it's a 1/2 cup of cheese. It says 4 ounces on there. You guys keep in mind that 4 ounces is a 1/2 cup. I said 1/4 because I am splitting this recipe in half. So I have my 1/4 here. Just gonna measure cheese here.
And cheese is a really great way to kind of add that salt to the top of your dish there. So we do have a little bit of salt going on there. You'll notice that we didn't add any salt in this recipe, which is a really nice, healthy tip to, avoid a little salt. But if you do need to add salt, just add a pinch right before you're about to eat a piece of your frittata, and then you can really taste it right on top of your dish.
So this recipe does call for, again, the salt is up to you. You could do a 1/2 teaspoon of salt is what they recommend with a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. I've opted to go ahead and do that. I'm gonna evenly disperse this across my frittata. And I'm gonna wanna pop that in the oven. It says we're gonna pop it in the oven for 35 minutes or until your eggs are firm. But as I've already talked to you guys about, we have that food safety that we want to make sure we're staying up to date with. So I have my handy thermometer here. I'm going to be checking my eggs when it's time for them to come out, and I'm looking for them to be 160 degrees. A thermometer is always a surefire way to make sure that your things like fish, meats, eggs, make sure that those things are cooked all the way so that they're safe for your family to eat. So I'm going to pop this in the oven. But before I do that, I quickly wanted to talk about the difference between these types of pans that we have here. I've decided to use my glass casserole dish, and I do have a metal 9 by 13 dish, the recommended one. The difference between these is
There we go.
cooking matters is a bang. For something like an egg recipe, or if you're doing something really acidic, maybe with a lot of tomato or lemon, you're going to want to use a glass tray, because these metal tins can kind of discolor it. It doesn't, hurt your food or anything, but it will be a little bit discolored. Also, watch when you're using metal dishes or metal tins. You might want to consider reducing the temperature by about 25 degrees, because metal is going to heat up really quick. And you're going to get a nice brown crust around there. And we want to get that crust, but we don't want to get the burnt. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about choosing between a glass dish or a metal casserole or a metal pan. Either way, though, they both work, and you'll get a delicious product. So let me pop this in the oven. And
Yeah, and I just wanted to talk really quickly. Sajwa had shown us that nice thermometer and temping our foods. It's always important to remember that when you're temping foods like chicken, you can't tell by the color that chicken is done. So you do need to temp your foods. That's really important. On the side of your thermometer, there's usually a little dimple. It's really important to make sure it is inserted into the food all the way up to that dimple. So just check out the thermometer that you have at home. Make sure it's properly calibrated. Yep, as Sajwa was showing right there.
I'm trying to show you guys. There it is,
Yeah.
that little dimple right there.
Yep, just make sure that it's inserted to that point, and then you'll get a proper reading. Also, make sure you're not temping it on the hot pan, otherwise you're gonna get a misread. So
Yeah, that's a really great point for something like our frittata. I don't know if you guys have checked out our chef's view yet. Here is our finished result. They're definitely not going to reach that entire notch there. So what I have done is I've stacked them on top of one another to make sure I can get to that height of that notch, so we can make sure we're getting to the correct temperature and we're eating safe and healthy. So this is our finished product. I had a quick swap out for you guys.
that looks great. Yum.
And that's our frittata.
Awesome. That is such a beautiful recipe. I love that recipe.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to do in class too.
Yeah. So, well, if you make this recipe or any of our other recipes for Cooking Connected, give us a comment on Facebook. Let us know how it went, if it went well, what you changed, even if it went bad. We'd love to know. We'd love to know what's going on in your guys' kitchen. So, give us a comment below our video, or check us out on Facebook. So, also, please do not forget to take our survey that will be posted in the description below. And finally, please join us again for next week. We're going to be making another healthy, delicious, affordable meal. We'd really love your feedback on what you'd like us to make. We're going to be posting on Facebook a little bit of a poll if you guys would like to check that out on Friday, and vote on what you would like us to make next week. So please stay tuned. We'd love to see you again next week. So with that, we will, until then, thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.